Hey guys, it's Maddie and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go through the 10 books that I read in March. For a bit of March, I was in a bit of a book slump. It was a bleak time for me. I haven't experienced that since starting my booktube, but it is like depressing being in a book slump because you just can't find a book to get you through it. So I finished out March with a for sure favorite, and I'll get to that at the end of this video. This is going to be spoiler free, so don't worry about that. I'm just going to give like a brief summary, my thoughts, a rating, and just go through the books that I have read. The first book I finished was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. And this is the first of a trilogy. And in this book, we get more of Jax. He makes a debut in the Caraval series, but then this series follows him more closely and his relationship and friendship with Evangeline. And he uses her to fulfill a prophecy that he needs to seek out in order to obtain more magic, and she is kind of the bridge that gets him from where he is to his like full potential. So she strikes up a deal with him and she needs to give him 3 kisses to who he wants when he wants. The first half of this book was very slow in my opinion. It was hard to get into and I just didn't see where it was going or what it was leading up to. But then once you get to the halfway point, it is just like a snowball effect. Things start happening very quickly and then we're left on a cliffhanger. The magic system is the same as Caraval because it takes place in the same world. So the spark did kind of die for me and it lost its like magical little whimsy a bit, but I was still really captivated in the story and figuring out what Evangeline's gonna do and what Jack's motives really are, because I just love him as a character and he has my heart, which is really upsetting because he's a fate and you can't trust fates. They are very tricky and devious, mischievous little things, so you gotta be very wary when dealing with them. I did give this book 4 stars because the last half really saved it. The first half was like 2 stars, not gonna lie, but once we got the ball rolling, then we were good. And this month I'm starting to take a quote from the book. So the quote from this book comes from Jax, and he says, "Heroes don't get happy endings, they give them to other people." That is the saddest thing ever, I think, because it's so true. Like, a hero never ends happily. Like, there's always sacrifices involved in becoming a hero. The second book is Daisy Jones and the Sixth by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this was a 5-star read for me. We follow this band throughout the 80s and their highs, lows, drugs, rock and roll, party, the complex relationships between the band members, also working with like family as well, and a little love triangle action. We specifically follow Daisy Jones. She's like one of the main characters and her struggle with building relationships and working with people, giving them trust and loyalty. And on the other hand, we have Billy Dunn. Oh, Billy Dunn. He has this girlfriend, Camilla, that he gets pregnant pretty early on, like before their band has fully flourished. And then they get married, but then Daisy comes in and she kind of is like a bit of a wrecking ball. She like not wreaks havoc, but she's just a very big personality and she's a lot, and she is very unapologetic about it, which I loved about her character. She really mesmerized me and she was pretty confident in who she is. I just love any like 70s scene band. It's just so fascinating, and like the music scene to me and like Hollywood, and I love this book. And there's also a TV show out on Prime, so I did watch that and it did not disappoint. One thing I didn't like about the crossover between the book and the TV show is that in the book, Camilla is very secure in her relationship to Billy, or with Billy, and she's a very strong woman. She trusts him. She knows that he's going to do what's best for their family. But in the movie, or the TV show rather, she was not portrayed that way. She was seen as very like weak, I want to say, and very jealous and insecure, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. All of the characters in the book were so strong and secure and really were complex. I really liked how it was told as a like interview transcript. It wasn't a book with a narrator, that you got the stories right from the characters themselves, and I thought that was really unique. And I know it's very hit or miss. You either really like that or it's not your thing at all. And the ending of this book, it is what needed to happen. It's not like a happy feel-good ending. The TV show kind of rounds it out a little further than the book takes it, but oh, it crushed me. It crushed me. And the quote from this book is said by Daisy Jones, and that is, "There's this peace that comes from knowing you have a person in the world who would do anything for you and that you would do anything for." That is very sweet, and this book is really about friendships and going, like, kind of testing the limits and the boundaries to what other people will do for you and what you would do for them. The next book is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. So there is this magical apartment. It's not a complex book, but it's kind of like hard to wrap my mind around because it's a little bit fantasy, but also fiction, like in the real world fiction. So Clementine inherits this apartment from her dead aunt, and growing up her aunt kind of alluded that this apartment is more than it seems, but Clementine didn't know to what extent or what she really meant by that. So when she takes over this apartment, she soon realizes that it transports her 7 years into the past. And that transportation is strictly to the apartment. It doesn't transfer to the real world. So in that apartment, she meets this guy named Iwan, who is a friend of one of her aunts, or he's a nephew of one of her aunt's friends. Yeah. And Clementine is very taken back by that. Like, she walks into her apartment and there's this random dude. So it takes her a bit to figure out what is going on. But then she realizes that she is 7 years in the past. So her and Iwan spark up a little bit of a friendship that develops into a bit more. But that relationship can't leave the apartment. They are stuck in 7 years in the past in Clementine's timeline. But in Iwan's timeline, it's happening in the present. So theoretically, Clementine could go out into her own timeline and find the Iwan who is 7 years in the future from the one she knows in the apartment. Oh, I hope this makes sense. It's kind of confusing because there's a lot of timelines and kind of jumping back and forth and keeping everything straight. But she does eventually meet him in the present, like her present, and it's coming to terms with people change. Like, she met him 7 years ago. A lot has happened in that 7 years, and he is a totally different person, and she needs to like accept it and kind of grieve who he was and move on from it and not like pigeonhole him to what he was. And it's very beautiful, but I don't know. I didn't really like their relationship. It just didn't have that magical spark I was looking for, and I spent a lot of the time kind of dissecting the fantasy element of it and the time jumping. So it kind of took away a lot from my enjoyment of reading the book. And the relationship between like past Iwan and Clementine in the apartment happened very quickly, and it wasn't really believable for me. Like, all of a sudden they're jumping in bed together, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They have met each other like 3 times. Hold the phone. And there is a quote from a conversation between Iwan and Clementine. And side note, before I get into that, he calls her Lemon. That is the sweetest thing ever. I love a guy who gives a girl a nickname, like, please. So this is a quote from their conversation, and it starts with Iwan. "I tell them about a girl I fell in love with at the right place but wrong time. What are you going to tell them now? That we finally got the timing right." Oh, how sweet. Anyways, on to a bit less of a sweet book, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And I gave this book 4 stars. It's dark academia. We follow Alex, who is like formerly known as Galaxy Stern, but Alex goes to Harvard, and there is these underground societies that have a very complex political system, and she is a part of the Leith House, which oversees all of the societies and what they do. Like, one of the societies dissects humans to try and predict the future and see what's going to happen. So they need to make sure everything's being looked after and practiced ethically and no one's abusing the system. Which, surprise, surprise, people are abusing the shit out of this and taking advantage of everything. So her little companion dude, Darlington, who is like her senior, he goes missing. He vanishes on very like suspicious circumstances, and she is trying to find Darlington, but also there has been a murder on the campus. But there is also this murder mystery that she's trying to discover, and she has a very strange inkling towards it that somehow this murder of this town girl is connected to the houses. So she's trying to figure all that shit out as well. Alex also has a very dark past and struggled a lot, so she is dealing with her monsters from the past and the present and trying to figure out life. I was slightly confused at times just how the political system worked, but that was just me trying to get a grasp on this book. It is a hefty book, but once I kind of figured it out, I wish we went more into the societies and how they were like established and what they actually do, because I feel like it's just kind of glazed over. We don't go in depth about it, and I wish we had a little more of an understanding about them and their practices. There was also like no romance in this book, which I didn't miss. This book didn't need the romance and it didn't have it, which I'm very thankful for. But I still really enjoyed it despite no romance. I didn't think I'd be that type of gal. I thought I would need romance in every book, but turns out I don't. And this book just solidified that for me. And it was very quick. I felt like there was always something going on, which I loved. It always had my attention. There was always something to be like worked out and that Alex was trying to get a grasp on, which I loved. Like there's just always so much going on, but for the most part, it was pretty straight and I could keep everything in order, except for the societies. Those are just like kind of a wash. It kind of just get it out of my mind. Like, it's fine, I don't understand it. It's all right. It's not detrimental. You would get a lot more out of the book if you had like a very solid understanding of it, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless, even though I didn't have the most solid grasp on what I was reading. And the quote of this book comes from Alex, and it is in Latin or Greek, Mors erumat omnia, and that means death fucks us all. I just thought it was a funny quote. Not too serious, but it's just funny. Like, it doesn't really have any importance to the book. I just thought it was funny. The 10,000 Doors of January. I DNF'd this book. I did not finish it. I did not like it. I got 109 pages in. I just couldn't get into it. I don't have much to say. I'm going to try rereading it. This is about the point where I was at my slump or starting to get into it. So it's not the book's fault. It was me. I was so over it. I didn't really like it. I didn't like learning about new things at that point. So to move on from that book, I picked up the second book of the Ninth House series, and that is Hellbent. This book focuses more on Alex saving Darlington. The two storylines between Ninth House and Hellbent don't really overlap whatsoever. Like, there are still important things from Ninth House that carry on to Hellbent, but they're two completely different plot lines. In Hellbent, the main point of this is going to hell to save Darlington, and Alex gets Mercy involved, Doss is more involved, and so is Detective Turner, and it's just about them going to hell, getting rejected, coming back out, demons follow them, and then they have to go back again to save Darlington. There are some pretty graphic sexual scenes in this book, so just know that going into it. They are few and far between, however that saying goes, but just beware, there are some that are very like, oh my god, like, okay, we're going there. We have went there. Again, this book was pretty different. Like, there was still a lot going on and a lot of past demons come up to haunt each of the characters actually, but I felt like this one dragged on a little bit longer than necessary. It didn't do it for me. I don't know, there was a bit of a disconnect, I thought, between this book and Ninth House. Also, when I talk about these books, I get the titles confused all of the frickin' time. And the quote from this book is, "That was all there was in this world. No heroes or villains, just the people you'd brave the waves for and the ones you'd let drown." Because this book is about sacrifice and loyalty and like putting others before yourself and just really fighting for those that you care about and that you love, even if that means putting yourself on the line. The next book I finished was Twisted Love by Anna Hung, and this is the first book of the Twisted series, but the second one that I've read, and this was a 4-star. I like this book. I like the way she writes. It's very like, not immature, but just very simple and like chick flit chick lit kind of, and it's a feel good. There's smut, there's like friendships, there is loyalty and sacrifice, and the freaking third act breakup. I hate those. That is one thing I hate about a book, is the third act breakup. I could do without it. I really, really could. Don't need it, don't want it, but it's like, I feel like every book of hers is gonna have it. But anyways, we follow Alex and Ava, their relationship. Alex is like gang mafia vibes, like very hard ass, only likes Ava, hates everyone else but Ava, and she is like sunshine in a bottle. Ava only sees the good in people. She only wants the best for everyone, has a very nice way of looking at the world. Like, she just really enjoys everyone she meets, and Alex obviously is like the stone cold, like gives no shits. But Ava gets a hold of his cold, cold heart and warms it up, melts the ice from it. It's about learning to love and trust other people and letting people see your more like vulnerable side. And it's just a sweet book. It's just like a good palate cleanser where you know you're gonna just have a great time reading the book, and the chemistry between the characters and the smut. It's just everything you need. This book, some parts were slightly unbelievable. Like, what 23-year-old is a millionaire and can get away with like a double murder and burning down a mansion? Alex can. So it's just like, sometimes it's just a little cheesy and a little much, and I just like shake my head, but I still really enjoyed it. And this quote is, "If you let lesser people determine your self-worth, you'll never reach higher than their limited imagination." The third book is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, and I gave this 3.5 stars. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. It was a sweet book. It's about Bree trying to befriend this loner, isolated guy, and he cannot talk, so he can only use sign language. And Bree is running from a very complicated past. She shows up at this little lake town and stumbles across Archer. And he's like very closed off to the world and wants nothing to do with anyone, and just like lives in his own little bubble due to his own trauma. But Bree witnessed her father being murdered and just struggling with a lot that happened back there. So when she comes to this lake town and meets Archer, she sees this as a new opportunity to make new friends, but he wants nothing to do with her. And then their relationship blossoms. Slowly they start to open up to each other and to trust one another and to form an unlikely relationship. But they both have past demons that they're struggling and dealing with and trying to work through. But sometimes you need space, and you can't do that with someone else. So it's heartbreaking, and it's just very beautiful though. And as sweet as this book was, I didn't love Bree. She kind of annoyed me at times and was like a little much, and I didn't love Archer. I can respect his past, but the characters just didn't really grow on me, to be honest. I like the dog. The dog was cute. This would make an excellent Hallmark movie. It has everything it needs, like the cheesy small town romance, the like unlikely couple that works through their issues and comes out on top, and it's sweet, but it's like, I can see why people cry. I can see how it can be sad, but I don't really cry at the lovey-dovey stuff. I more cry at the heartbreaking things, and this book almost got me at one point, but I rallied and no tears were shed. And this quote is, "Sometimes an understanding silence was better than a bunch of meaningless words." Ain't that the truth? Next, we have one of, I don't know, this was an experience, this book, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. The concept was lovely. So, moral of the story, when the sun won't give you what you need and wife you up, make you a little housewife, why not go for his dad? The age gap in this. Jordan is 19 years old and Pike is 38. And the father of her ex-boyfriend, might I add. But the breakup was understandable. Like, how the breakup happened made it okay for her to be with his dad in some sort of way. Oh man. But Cole was so irrelevant out of this whole book. That's the ex-boyfriend. Like, he did not seem like Pike's son. He didn't even seem like Jordan's boyfriend half the time. It was so weird. He just didn't really matter in this book. They didn't have any connection. Their relationship wasn't believable, and he had nothing to do with his dad, so why not go for him? The smut in this, my god, like my jaw was on the floor. It's a kind of a cute book. It's kind of wholesome. Like I can see why Pike really cared for Jordan and like was pretty sweet to her at most points. But then sometimes the whiplash going back and forth between, are they in a relationship or is he treating her like a daughter, was a little much. Line was a little blurry, but overall it was an enjoyable book. It was just very lighthearted. Don't read into it too much, and I enjoyed it. So 3.5 stars. But Jordan was supposed to be older than, or like act older than her age, and she didn't. She was still whiny, ran away from things, conversations weren't had. It just didn't really get me. But if you forget the ages and just look at them like on an equal playing field, then it's more enjoyable and you can overlook some of those things. That's what I did. I pretended they were both like 28. That was a good age. That's the age they acted. So like right in the middle of the two of them. Anyways, this quote comes from one of Pike's friends, and it is, "You two look at each other like the two of you have your own language." Aww, how sweet. Next, we have Never Lie by Frida McFadden, and this was my first book of hers that I've read, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very quick, fast, a page turner. So essentially, Trisha and Ethan are a recently married couple. They've only known each other for less than a year. They've only been married for less than 6 months. And you were told that point about 7 times. So if you don't remember it the first time, that's okay. You'll be told again and again and again that they've only known each other for a year and they've only been married for less than 6 months. That point was drilled home. So moral of the story, they have not known each other for very long and both have very dark, discreet pasts that they haven't shared with each other. Wow, shocker. But anyways, they are going to look at houses to buy and they come across this very isolated mansion. They go in and quickly realize that it is the house of a missing psychiatrist who like went missing 3 years ago or something, I don't know. But they go in, everything's dusty, but there's food in the fridge. There are footprints in the dust, so they know someone's been there. And then the story unravels after that. Trisha finds a hidden room full of cassette tapes that the psychiatrist Adrian used to record during sessions with patients. So Trisha actually takes those, start listening to some of them, and kind of unravels what happened in Adrian's last few days alive. Trisha has a past, Ethan has a past, and like, I was thinking this book is going right. This whole time I was like, I have it figured out. I know exactly what happened. This book, I know where. Like, wow, that she really isn't getting me. The book went left. I thought right, book went left. And it was good. It was good. The last half of the book, no, not even last half. Last, like, fifth of the book was a little, like, a lot and not very believable. And it felt like we were just being dumped on with a bunch of information and a bunch of like not trauma, but a bunch of like past that doesn't really flesh out in my opinion, but it was still really good and I enjoyed it and the twist got me and I'm so happy for that. So I give this book 3.5 stars. And the final book I read is Fourth Wing, 5 stars. I don't even have to say much about this. It's my favorite book. Fantasy, this is what's getting me out of my book slump. And if you don't know what Fourth Wing is, it is about this dragon college. We follow Violet and Xaden. They are trying to save the world. And the 3rd book of the Fourth Wing series has come out. So that is Onyx Storm, released in January of 2025, but it is up for pre-order. So make sure you check out your bookstores to get that book. But Fourth Wing can do no wrong. I love the college. I love the war, the love, the smut, the friendships, the loyalty. It's a perfect book. You either love it or hate it. And I know there are a ton of mixed reviews, but I fall in the category of loving it. And I hope you do too, but 5 stars, favorite read ever. Anyways, that is it for this video. And thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next one. Bye.